The girl. It felt like the short time after one wakes up from a nap. It feels as if everything is not real, as if you're still not fully awake. I opened my eyes and found myself placed in the scene right straight out of a thriller. I found myself standing in the middle of what looked like an alleyway. It felt like the aftermath of a fall storm. I took a breath, but all I felt was the cold, crisp air cutting the inside of my lungs. The sky was an unattractive shade of gray, which coincidentally matched the cold, wet pavement. I could see about 50 feet into this alley. The rest was covered in heavy fog. This fog laid so close to the ground that only the top of the building was visible. I looked down and noticed the pavement was cracked in several spots, creating vein-like cavities around this road. It gave me a sense that this was a forgotten road, that nobody walked, nonetheless driven through this road in years. As I looked through at my surroundings, I could try to take in all of the details of the scene, but found my senses muted. My eyes saw everything, but my brain could not process the information correctly. I turned my head to the left, where an old brick wall stood. The brick was barely visible. Dirt and mold covered most of its surface. I could tell this wall stood tall many years ago, but now it was only the skeleton of a building. The top of the wall was jagged and broken. Time became its worst enemy. There was a large vine coming from the pavement, rising against this brick wall, like a giant claw reclaiming its territory. It was only a matter of time until this mighty wall lost its battle against nature. I slowly shifted my head to the right and saw what was left of an old garage. The metal door was crippled by time and weather. It was bent with the metal framing sticking out in every direction. It reminded me of a homeless animal, sick and hurt. Many years ago, this door was white, but the white faded and rust had dimmed its bright glow. It became jagged to the touch and my finger got caught on the hinge. I watched the small trickle of blood slowly fall from my finger and hit the cracked pavement. It fell into a small circle and ants swarmed it like they haven't eaten in months. I moved forward toward the door, and I left the ants to their feast. Behind the door I could see only darkness streaming out. I found this strange because that I could see the darkness and the light became obsolete. But it was intriguing to my eyes. Its once concrete floor was now littered with debris and dried out leaves from the many autumns the vine across the street had to suffer. The room's smell was almost unbearable and yet so familiar. I've been here before. The rest of the street was covered in a thick, hazy fog. I turned my head to face the street, and to my surprise I found myself staring at the only color in the death scene: red. Every sense of my body screamed of fear. I could feel my hairs on my skin slowly rising as I saw this small figure materialize in front of me. As a gust of wind moved through my feet, the fog was pulled back like a curtain to reveal the small figure. It was a little girl. At first I thought she was walking toward me, but her feet did not move. After a while she seemed to stop. The heavy fog seemed to dance around her feet, as if it were delicate silk. There was nothing about her appearance that I needed to be scared of. She was wearing a red dress that had made a large circle around her knees, and she had her hair braided with a white ribbon tying the end. She looked fragile and innocent. I wanted to help her, to approach her, but something inside me stopped me. She looked at me. There was no anger, no excitement, no fear. There was nothing in her eyes that resembled the least bit of emotion. I was more than certain that my face resembled nothing but terror. I felt incredibly uncomfortable, but I had no idea why. Every bone in my body, every thought through my head told me to run. Instead, I stood there, still. It was as if my body stopped responding. I was paralyzed. I looked at this girl and wondered what she was doing in this alleyway. I began to think she was lost and needed help getting back home, wherever that might be. I never stopped to think what I was doing there. I had no recollection of getting there, or why I was there. A moment later, my stomach sank and I realized who she was. This little girl was me when I was 8. This was the alleyway behind my house. This was my childhood. It took what seemed it took what seemed like a lifetime until I managed to get to my legs again. I took a step towards her. She quickly blinked. Next thing I know, she was charging toward me. All I could see was pure concentration, for that matter, evil in her face. She opened her mouth as if to scream, but instead she revealed perfectly sharpened teeth, ready to attack. I remember backing away, but all I could see was her mouth getting closer to my face. I remember falling to the ground, her on top of me in the darkness of her throat. I lay there as I heard the sound of my flesh ripping apart in small imperfect pieces. My bones broken in single swift snaps. I felt as if I was being submerged in water, but I realized I was drowning in my own blood. The pain was like a fire roaring in what was left of my body. I closed my eyes. Then I woke.